She loves me. She don't love me. She'll marry me. She won't marry me. She will. She won't. She will. Faulty flower.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters. Thank you for tuning into Ruined Childhoods, a podcast about cult and classic movies and how we would revisit them with something funky and fresh. My name is John, and I am what I am, and with me, as always, is my brother Dan. Are you yam what you yam, Dan?
I am what I am, and that's all that I am.
I considered doing the, adding a sk in the middle of things, but I'm just like, I don't think I could sustain that for more than a slowly produced word.
You know, I'll be honest with you, John, that was a roll of the dice on my end, and I feel like I made it through.
That's one of those hidden language things that probably takes a lot of practice to do, or you're just a total weirdo and you're born to do the Popeye sounds.
Either or, there's two people I can think of that fit that bill, and one of them stars as Popeye in the movie Popeye.
Is the other Dave Coulier?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, those are the two that I know of. But anyway, we're not going to jump right into Popeye.
No, have you been watching anything good lately?
I have. So John and Starfighters, I took a trip to London last week, and we're recording this right now, June 23rd. And a week ago today, I visited Stonehenge. I'd never been before, so this was really exciting to go to London and see Stonehenge. And if you follow us on Instagram at Ruined Childhoods Pod, you saw...
Please do, if you don't already.
The photo I posted where I'm standing outside of a house where Alfred Hitchcock lived.
Yeah.
I think he lived there for about 20 years, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, I think earlier in his career, I think he lived there until 1939.
Okay.
So anyway, did that, saw some other sites, went to see a play at the Globe, which Shakespeare's
yes.
Globe, the recreation, which I had not realized was a project that was initiated and spearheaded by the late American actor, Sam Wanamaker.
Oh.
Because Shakespeare's original Globe burnt down.
Right.
And Wanamaker felt that the world needed to have Shakespeare's Globe, and that it should be a place where people should be able to go to see it performed. So he had it a detailed reconstruction created, and he did not live, unfortunately, to see it completed, which I believe it was finished in 1997, around there.
Well, yeah, and the original Globe, I mean, the Globe that a lot of people would probably know had USSR on it, and so the new one actually says Russia now.
Yes. Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. It's like playing an old cop version of Trivial Pursuit, where if you can't mentally put yourself in 1985, you're screwed.
Yeah, at least 30% of the cards say Soviet Union on them somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So anyway, going back to my London trip and kind of what's relevant to us is I also did, my wife and I did a walking tour of Harry Potter filming locations and also other places that locations were modeled after.
Got it.
So like Diagon Alley.
Sure.
You know, like I wasn't like I walk, you know, like Nocturne Alley. It wasn't like I was able to go into a shop for the dark arts and things like that.
Right,
But you
right.
looked at it and you were just like, oh yeah, okay,
I could
get
see
it.
that.
Yeah, you know, the outside of the leaky cauldron.
So you did some real pop culture touristy stuff, and I would
Well,
lump
yeah.
Stonehenge into that because of this, a Spinal Tap.
Oh, absolutely. And I listened to Stonehenge on the shuttle from the, because I have to. And that was also the same day that on the bus ride back from Stonehenge, King Charles
Yes,
passed our bus.
in a car.
In his car. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So he was, his motorcade kind of stopped, and it, not the brouhaha one would expect of like a king. And
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that with him, it's just like, all right, a stepping
Yeah.
stone until we get the real deal. Probably not too long from now.
so anyway, yeah. And
Did he wave his chubby little fingers at you?
Yeah, no, he was doing some work in the back seat with
Really? What does a
whoever-
king do for work?
Yeah, he was going over papers. Well, also, this was the day before. So on this past Saturday, so that would have been the 17th, June 17th, it was the ceremony for trooping the color. And it's kind of like, it's this thing that happens once a year, but this year was a little more special because it was going to be the first year in over 40 years that the monarch was going to be riding a horse in the ceremony.
Oh, good golly.
So it was like, you know, and it was to be a tourist in London for it. I was kind of like, okay, well, you know what? That's going to be happening here on the map. I'm going to be way the hell over there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to be anywhere near Buckingham Palace while this is going on. And that's fine because we were on our Harry Potter tour.
Sure.
And like we saw all the flyovers of all the, you know, Royal Air Force planes. And, you know, that was really, you know, something unique and interesting. And yeah,
Yes.
it was, anyway, it was a great trip. And, you know, my plan was to watch Popeye on one of my flights, but for some reason my download on the Paramount Plus app wasn't playing.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. So I couldn't really commit to a movie on the way there. I watched a good amount of Bullet Train, which was fun.
It's fun.
You know what? Yeah, you saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's okay. Yeah, it's fun. It's, you know, it's very, you know, Guy Ritchie energy, and
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, you know, it's just kind of, yeah. I liked it. Guy Ritchie can be a bit too much for me. I liked Wrath of Man.
I didn't see that one.
It's an above average Guy Ritchie.
Got it. Okay. So you watched Bullet Train.
So I watched a good amount of Bullet Train, and on the way back, I decided to watch The Whale because
Yes.
I was like, I don't know when else I'm going to just be in the mood. And like, I've got enough. I'm on this plane for 8 hours. I've got time to watch this and then palate cleanse. So
How did you palate cleanse?
I think I watched the Velvet Underground documentary that Todd Haynes made. Yeah. I really I enjoyed that.
Todd Haynes is great.
I liked the Velvet Underground, but did not know enough, or, you know, did not know as much as I suppose there was to know about them.
Well, that's what happens when you watch a documentary.
This
you
is
hopefully learn something that you didn't know before.
I know. I'm like, you know what? It was a good documentary. I enjoyed watching it, but I watched The Whale, and I'm so glad that I did. I always find Darren Aronofsky's films to be interesting,
Sure.
and the asterisk is that I have not seen Noah, nor have I seen Mother.
I did see Noah, and I didn't love it. It was a bit much for me. I haven't seen Mother, because there's an exclamation point at the end.
Yes.
But Darren Aronofsky, I mean, great track record. Typically, you know, had some really standout hits. Black Swan.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, you got your Black Swan, your Requiem for a Dream, The Wrestler. I think The Whale definitely falls closer to the Wrestler.
Sure,
in, you know, just in terms of, it's a character piece. And yeah, the themes of, a father reconnecting with a child, with a daughter, in both films. But The Whale has its own story, and of course, it's based on a play, which makes so much sense. As I was, I don't know that I knew that before watching it. If I did, I forgot, and I just kept thinking as I was watching it. I was like, "Oh, yeah, I could see this working on stage."
Yeah, well, I mean, it has worked on stage.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, but it also really works on film, and the way that the story unfolds is, I think, really nice. And the performances, really, not just Brendan Fraser.
Sure.
Who's amazing.
Everybody was
Sadie
great.
Singh, Hong Chow.
Academy Award nominated.
Love in The Menu.
Fantastic in The Menu.
Two
very different roles all coming out at the same time.
Oh yeah, no, but like she's an actress that I really want to. I'm like, I want to see more of her work.
I don't think you'll have to wait very long.
No,
Yeah.
I certainly don't. The kid who plays the missionary.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah,
But he was very good.
Anyway, The Whale, highly recommended. Very emotional, but I think very elegantly and gracefully done, even though Aronofsky doesn't pull punches.
Yeah.
He not known to do that.
Doesn't pull punches, and also is always looking to further the medium with his work, not bucking to trends. And I appreciate that. And that really connects very strongly to our director of the week.
Yes, and I will add to that before putting a bow on it, is that even in his films that are not as, like, Black Swan is very cinematic and very, appropriate to its subject matter, but I feel like he is just as bold and just as daring in the more intimate, simplistic work.
Yeah.
The wrestler and the and then W and then wrestler and Hale. I don't know if that's the trend. Maybe The Fountain should have had a W, and it would have been. That was a good movie to see in the theater. But anyway, we're here to talk about Robert Altman.
Yeah, and Dan,
Popeye.
just as you cleansed your palate with the documentary, I took in a documentary this past week, Altman. The documentary about Robert Altman.
I was going to ask you, question answered.
Okay, so
yes.
On our last episode, I mentioned a few movies that I wanted to watch in preparation to talk about Popeye, directed by Robert Altman. And what I ended up watching, just based on what I could get access to, was MASH, California Split, and Shortcuts. And then not directed by Robert Altman, but Altman, the documentary about Robert Altman, which was very fascinating. And I didn't think that it was necessarily a great documentary. It was extremely one-sided. Everything was just like, oh, he's so great. It was a real puff piece. But if you just want to have like, oh, and then this year he did this and this year he did that, and not really talk about any of the, bad stuff that, the bad things about him.
I also think, having seen it, that, watching it in preparation for talking about one of his films on a podcast, it's perfect.
It's adequate, but as a movie itself, I was like, it's not very good.
It's a Wikipedia page.
Yeah. And it's kind of great that there was so much footage and photos from such a long time ago.
The home films,
all the home movies and everything. Yeah. I mean, that was worth it to kind of just see all of that kind of come to life. But yeah, I watched MASH and California Split, and then today I watched Shortcuts, which 3 hours. Whew, that's a longie.
That was a double VHS.
Sure, yeah, deservedly so. Oh, and I watched The Player. I also watched The Player.
All right.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So, all right. I mean, I guess, and this was really your first.
And of course I watched Popeye.
Well, yes. And then prior to this, had you seen any of his?
Well, I mean, The Long Goodbye.
Yes. The Long Goodbye, of course. Yes. We had this discussion on the last episode.
I have seen The Player before. I am pretty sure that I saw MASH at some point.
Probably.
It's some scenes
We had
seemed
the
familiar.
Laserdisc in our home.
I don't think I ever saw it on Laserdisc.
I don't remember a Laserdisc actually ever being played.
Okay, the only Laserdisc I ever remember. You know what I'm about to say.
Go for it.
So,
Yep.
Our father got a Laserdisc player, and I think by the request of a friend, and only really got a few Laserdiscs. But I believe only one of them really ever made it on the rotation, which was Apollo 13. Because our father had, then this was a time when this wasn't as common, but had surround sound put in, and just loved watching that launch sequence.
He wouldn't even watch the whole movie.
But that launch sequence, man, that made the house shake. He loved it.
The house shake.
He loved it. And you know what? I want him to be happy. I want him to have those house shaking Apollo 13 launch moments.
I'm pretty sure I might have. I think I got it for him on Blu-ray once they got a Blu-ray player.
But he already has the Laserdisc. What's
in the
point?
house? Stuart's audio won't fix the Laserdisc player anymore.
Wow, very niche. Northern Central New Jersey audio
Union
video
County.
supplier. So we're Dan and I
shout out. All
we're,
right.
Yeah, we're Dan and I are going to be heading back for a brief visit soon. I'm very excited about that. Popeye. This was a movie that you and I feel really grew up with. I don't know if we must have had it on tape.
No, it was on HBO.
It was on HBO.
A lot.
It must have been, okay, knowing a little bit more about the way that licensing works for any type of distribution, I can see how certain movies got played ad nauseum on Comedy Central or HBO. I mean, like PCU, Just One of the Guys. Like there are these movies that you just know because you were served them all the time. When you would turn on the TV, be like, well, I guess I'll just watch this because it's on. And it was on because it was probably really cheap for HBO or for Comedy Central to get the rights to. And so Popeye, which was a critical and box office failure, I'm sure was kind of in the dollar bin, so to speak. So, but it's definitely gotten like cult status in the more recent years.
Yes. Well, yeah, it is benefiting from some revisionist critique. And it did make money.
It made money, but not what they were hoping. I mean, they were really this was Disney, and it was a big thing. They were
it was Disney and Paramount. And it was the backstory that Paramount and Columbia were in a bidding war for Annie, for the rights to Annie. And when Paramount lost that, Robert Evans was just like, we need one. We need an Annie.
Yeah, and Popeye, he found out that he could get the rights to Popeye. Yeah. And just chose it. And this was also the film debut for Robin Williams, who didn't really have much else film-wise for a few years after this, but it was quite a bit later until
Garp, I think. Was Garp his next one after this?
Possibly, but he didn't really like blow up in terms of his film work until probably later 80s.
Which I think is probably one of the reasons why he never spoke too highly of this movie. So,
well, yeah, I mean, this was, he was Mork from Ork, and stand-up comedian from San Francisco, and that was it. And this was going to be a star-making moment for him, and I imagine that it was a really difficult process. This is a production that historically had a lot of things go wrong.
Oh yeah,
and they had like a 3-week rain delay at the beginning. They lost millions before they even like filmed anything.
Well, they built this whole village of And you know what? I'm sorry, John. Before we get into the details, the specifics of the movie, because if I'm going to talk about Sweet Haven, we might
Should I
as well get into
synopsize?
it. Well, so actually, before we do, I wanted to talk just a little bit about the character of Popeye.
Oh, okay.
And do you? I did a little research.
Oh, Dan, I've got a whole timeline.
Oh, well, okay. Now, does your timeline include 1868 in Poland, the birth of Frank Fiegel?
No, it doesn't. My timeline starts in 1919.
Well, then, I will take you to 1919, but we
Okay.
are going to start in 1868. And I'm getting my information here from the Coast Guard Auxiliary website.
Oh, wonderful.
Because this is about, you know, one of their own. So Frank Rocky Fiegel was born in Poland in 1868, and his family, when he was young, emigrated to the United States and settled down in Illinois. And then when Rocky, you know, I think as soon as he was old enough to, he, you know, went to sea and was you know, he spent 20 years in the Merchant Marines and then retired. And then later on, you know, he, you know, was living around, back in Illinois, was hired by a tavern, Wybush or Weebush's Tavern in Chester, Illinois, as a bouncer. He very quickly developed a reputation for always being involved in fighting. He usually won, but through those fights gained a deformed eye.
Oh, interesting.
Now he also always smoked his pipe, so he spoke out of one side of his mouth.
Oh my God.
Now, in his spare time, like when he was a bouncer, when he wasn't fighting, he would talk to the customers and he would tell them all these stories of all these adventures that he claimed to have when he was in the Merchant Marines, and would refer to like crossing the 7 seas.
Oh my God.
Now, I'm going to bring somebody else into the picture, and that person is L.Z. Chrysler Seeger, E.C. Seeger, the creator of Popeye, who grew up in Chester and met Rocky at the tavern and would sit there and listen for hours to this guy. And then years later, when and I'm guessing this takes us to 1919 with the creation of Thimble Theater.
Well, yeah, Thimble Theater started at the end of 1919 in the New York Journal, and this really focused on olive oil and a lot of the other cast of characters.
Loosely based on an actual person.
Oh my God, I love that.
Dora Pascal.
But it's not until
1929,
10 years later, that Popeye actually makes his debut in Thimble Theater. And his whole, like, he was like a side character. He was like a nothing character, but I guess the New York Journal got letters demanding more Popeye. There certainly wouldn't be, tweets or anything about it, or TikTok videos about like, check out this comic strip of this dude. So it wasn't even until that August of 1929 that Popeye became entangled with olive oil in a romantic relationship.
Romantically. See, I screwed it up there. I don't know.
Yeah, so the character of Popeye is born. I can continue on with my full-on timeline.
Oh yeah, and just by the way, this guy, totally gave his blessing to create Popeye after him, and the guy and actually Seeger stayed in touch with Rocky and kept sending him money.
I was gonna say, dude better have some sort of stake with his estate or something.
I don't know. I mean, but yeah, no. Seeger took care of him, man. But Popeye is maybe one of the last cartoon characters I would have guessed is based on a real person.
Yeah.
But apparently.
Yeah.
I
wonder what his forearms were like. Or his calves.
Yeah, no, they were ovular and had
oblong, engorged.
All right,
so a little bit more about the timeline. So between 1931 and 1936, the character of Popeye is credited with boosting spinach sales, according to the Spinach Council of America, the world, I don't know. But sticking in 1931, that April, we have the character of Wimpy debuting his catchphrase, our hamburger loving friend. In September of 32, Bluto makes his debut. In July of 1933, Popeye makes his screen debut which included his signature voice and theme song, Popeye the Sailor Man. 1933 in July, so actually only about a week and a half after that that film came out, which I think was part of a Betty Boop film. Anyway, so that about a week later, Sweet Pea made his debut on the comic strip. 33, Popeye gets his own TV show. 35, Popeye makes his radio show debut. Okay, 1937, Crystal City, Texas, the spinach capital of the world, erects a statue honoring Popeye. Did you know that there was a spinach capital of the world? And it is in Crystal City, Texas.
Wow. No and no.
So 1948, the Popeye comic book series debuts. 1960, a new Popeye animated series debuts. In 76, Popeye magazine launches. Now, this is what they say is the first fashion and lifestyle magazine to be published in Japan that targets young Japanese men. The only reason why it's called Popeye magazine is because the creator's son loved Popeye. That's the only reason why it's called that. But on the cover, there's Popeye. And then in 1978, a new Popeye animated series debuts on CBS Sunday mornings. 1980, we're about to get to in a little bit. 82, there's a Popeye arcade game. 1997, there's another animated series called Popeye and Son. 2004, Fox airs a 3D CGI Popeye movie called Popeye's Voyage: The Quest for Pappy. And that is, it's not like theatrically released or anything like that. This is something that we can talk about more later. But in 2010, Sony Animation announces a new Popeye movie. A sample of it didn't get leaked. It got kind of released in 2014 to be directed by Gendy Tartakovsky. But then Amy Pascal, this was right around the time of the Sony hack.
Oh, yes.
So I think that they were just like freaking out about everything. And Amy Pascal just didn't want to make the movie that Gendy wanted to make. And so it got scrapped. There were talks about starting it up again, but then that all kind of went away. And then in 2018, Popeye's Island Adventures debuts on YouTube. None of this is at all talking about the impact that it's had on fashion lines, fragrances. There's been so much Popeye shit. It's bananas.
Fast food.
Did
Two? Well, because
meatball subs? Utah?
Wimpy's. No.
Wimpy's.
Wimpy's hamburgers and Popeye's chicken.
Wimpy's hamburgers. I completely forgot about Wimpy's hamburgers.
I know, right? Now,
does that still exist? Wimpy.
It does still exist.
The origins. The Wimpy brand was established in 1934 by Edward Gold when he opened his first location in Bloomington, Indiana under the name Wimpy Grills. The name was inspired by the character of J. Wellington Wimpy from the Popeye cartoons. Fancy that.
Right?
And Popeye's restaurant. So that one, I'm trying to see what the origin exactly. The chain later, okay. So Alvin C. Copeland claims he named the stores after the fictional detective Jimmy Popeye Doyle, portrayed by Gene Hackman in The French Connection, which came out about a year before the chain was founded and not the comic strip character of Popeye the Sailor. However, the company's early brand became deeply tied to the cartoon star with its sponsorship of the Popeye and Pals children's show in New Orleans, and the character appeared on items from packaging to racing boats. The chain later acquired the rights to use the Popeye the Sailor for marketing and used this for 35 years. 2012, they ended their association with the Popeye characters.
Wow. Holy shit. I never would have guessed that. I just assumed, especially because they use the font that.
Yeah, it seems a little too similar, but
I'm now I just
forgot
love
about
the
Wimpy, though.
I love the idea that there's like a fried chicken chain that is named after Popeye Doyle in The French Connection.
I know, you didn't see that one coming, huh?
No, damn. I'm imagining like, oh God, like Gene Hackman in those commercials, but like at that time.
Yeah, right.
Just like walking into frame, like taking a bite out of the chicken, just like looking very seriously at the camera, just being like, it's good fried chicken.
Like, maybe we should go with the cartoon sailor instead, who has no connection to fried chicken whatsoever, but whatever.
Yeah. You
So-
can get spinach as a side, right?
Shall I synopsize our
Let's-
1980 film directed by Robert Altman, starring Robin Williams, Shelley Duvall?
Please do.
Shall we? Okay.
Yes.
A sailor named Popeye has spent the past 30 years exploring the world in a search for his long-lost father and ultimately docks in a rundown town called Sea Haven, which is filled with a series of unique characters. First, he meets a tax collector who informs Popeye that basically anything can be taxed and gets taxed by orders of the Commodore. The residents of Sea Haven seem to not take kindly to strangers and don't give Popeye the warmest welcome, but he does find a hint of kindness in the Oil family who run a boarding house in which Popeye has rented a room. On the evening that Popeye arrives, the Oil household is filled with people celebrating the engagement of the young, bubbly, surly, and slightly aloof Olive Oil to Bluto, the burly and temperamental enforcer for the elusive Commodore. When we witness Olive demonstrating her reluctance as she plans her secret escape from Sea Haven, but after sneaking out, she encounters Popeye. Their chance meeting is met with ire from Olive, but when they discover that her basket has been swapped out by a mysterious stranger with an identical one containing a baby, her mood shifts. Popeye reads a note on the baby saying that his parents can't handle the responsibility and want him to raise the child. Given that Popeye was also an abandoned child, he rises to the occasion and vows to raise the boy, who he names Sweet Pea. Olive is equally taken by Sweet Pea, and they decide to raise the boy together. After discovering this change in plans, Bluto takes it upon himself to fight Popeye and tax the ever-loving hell out of the Oil family, leaving them penniless. Always looking to lend a hand, Popeye earns the family's respect by competing in a boxing match against the seemingly unbeatable Oxblood Oxheart, which provides them with the wealth they need to get out of their hole. What they soon realize, though, is that through subtle reactions, Sweet Pea is actually able to predict the future. He is taken by a local burger enthusiast named Wimpy to the racetrack to place some bets in an effort to save the family from further poverty. Witnessing the talents of this baby genius, Bluto orders Wimpy to kidnap Sweet Pea so that the baby can be used by Bluto and the Commodore to find a hidden treasure. You getting all this? Once Popeye catches wind, he storms into the Commodore's boat, discovering that it's actually his long-lost father, Poop Deck Pappy, an undeniable fact that Poop Deck refuses to acknowledge. Meanwhile, Bluto has kidnapped Olive Oil and Sweet Pea and is in search of the treasure. Popeye, Poop Deck, and the Oils chase after Bluto in an effort to rescue Olive and Sweet Pea. Spoiler alert! Once they get to the small island, Popeye fights Bluto while Poop Deck uncovers the treasure, which is evidence of his sentiment for his long-lost son. The treasure chest also has some cans of spinach, Popeye's least favorite food. But after Bluto forces some down Popeye's gullet, he springs into action, beats the tar out of Bluto, and rescues Olive Oil. So yeah.
Wow. All right.
Okay. Also, some other actors of note. We have Paul L. Smith as Bluto, Paul Dooley, a Robert Altman mainstay, as Wimpy. We have Ray Walston as Poop Deck Pappy, who's shown up in some other Altman movies. Donald Moffat as the Taxman. Yes, he was in. Oh, I know he was in something else that I just watched. Maybe it was The Player.
Okay. I mean, geez, everyone in Hollywood was.
Yeah, I think it was just The Player. We have Roberta Maxwell as Nana Oil, Donovan Scott as Castor Oil.
Donovan Scott, of course, of Police Academy.
Of Police Academy, that's right.
This is also the screen debut of Linda Hunt.
Linda Hunt, of course, from If Looks Could Kill. And also Bill Irwin as Ham Gravy, who a lot of people would know as Mr. Noodle. But I know that they sourced a lot of the actors in this from a circus troupe, the Pickle Players or something like that.
Yeah, the Piccolo Poopla
brothers. Yeah.
Geez, yeah.
Oh, I thought the same thing.
Mouth. Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't know.
So yeah, it's really a fantastic cast of characters, and what I think is really exceptional about not just the cast, but also like the costume design and everything is that everybody feels authentic to the location, this town they built in Malta for this movie.
That you can go visit.
It is a tourist attraction dedicated to Popeye. It was closed for a while in COVID, but it just reopened. It's kind of amazing. I want to go.
Yeah, I would go.
Let's go to Malta. Why are we not
Absolute-
recording this in Malta?
I
Probably for the same reasons why Robert Altman lost the studio so much money.
well, no, look, I doubt that nearly that much booze and cocaine would be involved if we went to Malta.
Yeah, I don't think much at all would be involved.
No. No.
But yeah, it's actually like an amusement park. It's like a big
It's like,
thing.
yeah,
There- you can do
Popeye Village.
You can do like weddings and stuff there.
Okay.
It's fascinating. Yeah,
All right.
I was like really getting deep into this whole Popeye Village thing. That's wild.
Yeah. So, but getting back to the look of it, so they definitely reference the Depression, that there's
Yes.
a depression going on, and it's interesting because it's another parallel with Annie.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So like, was Robert Evans that specific about his demands?
Yeah.
Get me a musical based on a comic strip set during the Great Depression that will make people happy
Dan, can I tell
and
you?
involve a kid.
Can I tell you kind of a funny personal like Robert Evans story? I never met the guy, but can I? So
Yes.
when I was in college, I had learned that there was a movie that had come out that I was very interested in seeing, and I got a chance to see it when it was released on DVD, and I rented the movie that I thought that I was going to be watching. That was the true story of a game show host that was actually a CIA operative played by Sam Rockwell. The movie was Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, but for some reason in my mind, I got it confused with The Kid Stays in the Picture. And I get the DVD for The Kid Stays in the Picture, the Robert Evans documentary, and
Which is a treat.
which is bonkers. It is something else.
Oh.
But I did not like for the first few minutes. I was like, okay, I feel like they're lingering on this like documentary style thing for a little too long. And then like it occurred to me, it's like, oh no, I have just completely the wrong movie. And then, then I watched The Kid Stays in the Picture.
Right. Yeah. Which
Yeah.
once you realize it's a documentary about Robert Evans
Yeah.
makes much more sense.
It makes way more sense. And so I learned a lot about Robert Evans that day. I wish I remembered all of that information. But
Yeah.
what I also love about Robert Evans is the Mr. Show sketch that where Bob Odenkirk is recording an audiobook as God, and it's his autobiography, but he's doing it as Robert Evans in the style of Robert Evans. The way that he speaks, he's just like, was I right? I was worse than right. I was wrong. Like it was, this
Yes.
very overly
Yes.
dramatic way of speaking. And the way that Bob Odenkirk did it was flawless.
I always go back to Patton Oswalt's Robert Evans impressions. He had this bit. It's like his first or second album he does it, where it's like, I guess ESPN had hired Robert Evans to do like voiceovers for their ads.
Okay.
So it's like Robert Evans intertwining the types of stories that you see in The Kid Stays in the Picture with college football every Sunday starting at noon on ESPN.
Yeah, Robert Evans had such a very specific way of speaking, and I guess his autobiography. I mean, like the Kid Stays in the Picture thing. Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, you definitely, yes. Having seen that film, yes, absolutely. So you can understand already. So Robert Evans is kind of
Right. So
behind
you have
the wheel
Robert
here.
Evans, who brought on Robert Altman for this, who was kind of was given the script, but then was just encouraged, I think, by his family, being like, "Oh yeah, you're doing a Popeye movie, great," and then of course teams up with Harry Nilsson to do the music. When I find it really interesting that for both Robert Altman and Harry Nilsson, they're kind of at a dip in their career. They both, they started
that's why
off.
Altman hired him.
They were regarded so highly, and they just had like bomb after bomb.
Well, but also they had these reputations for being difficult because apparently everyone except for Robin Williams was telling Altman, don't hire Nilsson. If he shows up at all, he's going to be drunk. He's not going to do anything.
Well, this was not too long after he was just rabble rousing at the Troubadour with John Lennon and, just causing a ruckus.
Oh, yeah. No. He earned the reputation.
Yeah.
But also his music and another great, I feel like we're on this documentary run here.
Yeah.
Who is Harry Nilsson and why is everyone talking about him?
Yeah. A great documentary.
And which just shows
that
you.
Documentary is great because it does show you this guy really fucked up over and over again.
I mean, it wouldn't be much of a documentary if they couldn't show you that because But I have you ever are you into his music at all?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I love Nilsson Schmilsson is
Nilsson Schmilsson's a classic. Aerial Ballet.
Yeah.
They're
But
classics.
his style of songwriting, I feel, fits this movie so well, not just because he knows his way around a shanty, but also just like thematically, there's always this kind of juxtaposition of like something being a little off. I think that's kind of a running theme throughout this movie, both in as a viewer, but also in the presentation, is that things are just a little off in Sweet Haven.
There are no right angles. And that goes for Sweet Haven and Harry Nilsson's music.
Yes.
Everything is just slightly askew. Did you have an opportunity to listen to the Popeye soundtrack, the most like recent edition with like the Harry Nilsson demos and everything?
I didn't listen to the Harry Nilsson demos, but
It's great.
I happened to listen to a few tracks of the soundtrack, and I'm glad I did just because some of the songs in the context of the film, because they were like recorded live.
Yeah.
They're a bit muddled, and it's kind of like you're watching the movie and you're like, is there a music? Is this a song? Is there music? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, this is a song. Whereas listening to it on the soundtrack, where it's more like mastered and recorded, like, it's presented as the soundtrack, I think it really highlights the strengths of the songs better.
It's available on Spotify and Apple Music and all those. If you listen to the Harry Nilsson demos and the ones where he's like recording certain things with like Shelley Duvall, it's great. And it's a really awesome peek behind the curtain of kind of these songs coming together. And Shelley Duvall, we need to talk about, just an absolute perfect olive oil.
So, and I think our theme right now is about how all of these pieces fit so perfectly to create a Popeye movie, a live action Popeye movie that really carries the spirit of the classic cartoons.
Yeah.
And Shelley Duvall is like flawless, and it's so like hard to believe she was not the first choice. She was not the second choice. She's
incredible. I feel like we really let down a legend, and I hate that what happened to her just ruined her feelings on acting, because she was so excellent. The Shining really did one on her.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was this was the next movie she did, I think, after The Shining.
Yeah.
And for her, she was just like, this is heaven.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot, like there's some people who complained about the experience, and then other people like Shelley Duvall just, this is bliss. This is so much fun.
Yeah.
And you can tell she's having fun doing it. And she is so, even like the singing, it's like, yes, this is how olive oil should sound.
Yeah.
Singing a song.
Well, also this is also a home for her. She was discovered by Robert Altman. She was one of Robert Altman's choice actors, and really developed her as an actor. She was really just not a socialite, but really just a person out on the scene. And Robert Altman just kind of like plucked her up and developed her into an actor. And I remember reading something a while ago about how, he was really pissed off when she went and did The Shining. And so I'm glad that they were able to, dare I say, bury the hatchet and have her come back for Popeye. Wow, I didn't realize that was going to be so on the nose.
Yeah, wow.
But no, she's like, I can't think of anybody, especially at that time, who would be better than she would be as playing Olive Oil.
No, perfect choice.
Yeah.
Perfect choice.
And Robin Williams, I mean, I love him in this role. And it's not because he's Robin Williams. It's because he's having fun with it. And I don't know, he just kind of falls into this character. And he does kind of a different kind of spin on Popeye. He's not just replicating the animated Popeye.
Well, no, and there's the added depth to it. And it was like something that Shelley Duvall said about this character was she actually felt like it had some depth compared to a lot of other roles she had played. You know, like the scene where they're both singing, you know, they're singing to Sweet Pea.
Yeah.
There's really nice moments. She wants to find the right guy. You know, it's not that she doesn't want to get married.
Well, I think that it's saying that Bluto is like the third person she was engaged to or something and left. Something like that.
Yeah. You know, she's got that great song that, you know, she nails Shelley Duvall, that he's large.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's one of the songs. There's so many. We talked before about growing up on this.
Yeah.
Watching the movie, every time I rewatch it, you know, at least every 10 years, so much of it just feels fresh. And it's like, yes, I remember this is exactly like when I think of this movie, I think of this image, and something that I remember very strongly, and I'm wondering if you do as well. And it comes to it's the ending. I always remember because we watched it on HBO in a pan and scan transfer.
Okay.
That especially at the end, before the credits roll, when they're like like it's all in the water and he's doing the whole dance and everything, instead of just like cutting off part of the screen, they would like squeeze it in, and everything was kind of stretched out, which every now and again you'd get a movie like that. But I remembered that, and it was almost like I wasn't sad, but I wouldn't have complained if at that moment when I was watching it, just like the screen had gone to pan and scan to like squish it in just to match that memory. That and like her screaming Octopussy, especially because this is like 3 years before a movie comes out called Octopussy.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with Popeye, but yeah.
What are you saying? Like, what about it sticks out for me from watching it as a kid?
Yeah, like what are those moments that either like even if you haven't seen this movie in 20 years, someone mentions the movie to you, you're like, oh, right, yes, that.
I think that his boxing match with Oxblood is a standout moment for me. The way that he, you know, uses people's faces as a speed bag, like that whole thing is so good. In the moment where Bluto sees Popeye and Olive Oil toward the beginning and then everything turns red, I don't think I understood what that meant, you know, just like he's seeing red and everything, but like just that visual of that was so striking to me. Definitely the Sweet Haven song.
Yes.
I mean, that's stuck in my head all the time. It's been stuck in my head all week.
That song, Everything is Food.
Everything is food. To a lesser extent, I would gladly
pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Everything is Food is an interesting one, and I wonder if the like Depression era aspect of it is the reason why it's hyped up so much. But I don't know, the song doesn't do it for me as much. I Am What I Am is a really funny one.
Going back to Everything is Food, listening to that on the soundtrack, to me, I thought I was able to kind of like discern the lyrics a bit better. So I actually do feel like that depression setting does impact that section, that like everything is food. That's all we're trying to do is, you know, feed our families. That's
everything is upside down. Everything is sunny side up. It's ubiquitous, enigmatic, and they can't trick us with a hot dogmatic. I mean, those are some pretty strong lyrics. Something else that I wanted to point out about the lyrics for Sweet Haven is that there's this one line where it's like, swept people from the sea, safe from democracy, sweeter than a melon tree put here for you and me, where it's like they are going by their own rules. They are off doing their own thing because the rest of the world has done them no good.
Yeah, again, Nilsson, the idea
Yes.
that things are a bit off and we're kind of trying to make this
Yeah.
work and we're making it work, but
God
it's not
must have
working.
landed here. Why else would he strand us here, where the air is nice and clear, sweet haven even sounds so near to heaven? It's great.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I think this, especially if you're going to compare it to Annie, like this is on another level thanks to not just Nilsson, but Altman being a little more, I think, open to that and having that, like Altman kind of needs to like, stick it to some type of system.
Well, yeah, I think that everybody involved in this movie is kind of bitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have every reason to be. But also speaking about the Annie thing, one thing that I always think about with Sweet Sweet Haven is the similarity that it has to Tomorrow melodically. It's like dun 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 dun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I always kind of think that it's gonna go da 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 tomorrow,
Which
so,
is
yeah, as featured in the movie Dave.
I mean, I'm like almost wondering, and I want to like look back and see like when was this released? When was Annie released? I'm pretty sure this came out before Annie.
But was the Annie musical, was that a play before it was a movie?
Oh, yes. It was, yeah. So I wonder if that was intentional. I wonder if Nilsson...
The Annie movie came out in 1982.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And what's also an interesting parallel is that you've got...
Sorry, the song Tomorrow was written in 1977.
Yes. So I wonder if Nilsson was intentional. That would be,
honestly, I wouldn't put it past Nilsson. That's some Nilsson ass shit right there.
That's some Nilsson ass shit. That's some Altman shit. Like, come on, that's Robert Evans.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, what a weird team of people. But I think that looking back at it, and I hope that people do look back at this movie and enjoy it for what it is, because everything does fit together. Everything does make sense for what it is.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's kind of like the movie is like the town of Sweet Haven.
Yeah.
And it's almost like everything about it is perfectly appropriate to it.
Yes.
But to be an outsider, there's something off. If you're not part of Sweet Haven, you come in and you see that it's like things are, and actually Popeye experiences it when he first arrives and everyone's like running and hiding and a stranger, and he's just like, okay, this place, like a port town is like xenophobic. What?
Yeah.
There's always that sense of like something's off about Sweet Haven. There's people abandoning babies randomly.
It's a very strange place, and it's a very strange movie.
I also think that, and here's where I feel like contemporary audiences looking at it really might not know what to make of it, because I feel like we grew up like, we were able to watch the old Popeye cartoons on whether like reruns or
CBS Sunday mornings.
Yeah. So like you knew Popeye, but although I feel like I remember seeing this movie very early on, and if you know Popeye, it makes sense. And what I love about it is the practical effects and how they really replicate in live action what you would see in a cartoon, and the music and not just like, the instrumental music and the theme, like during when he's brawling with Dennis Franz and
I forget that Dennis Franz is one of those guys.
Yeah. When he's doing that brawl, or when he's in the boxing match, or even the final, like after he has the spinach.
Yeah.
I mean, the scenes with the octopus, just everything beginning to end was just like, yes, this is the cartoon. This is a cartoon come to life.
Right. Well, when you're
Bill
if you're-
Irwin, all
Bill
the shit
Irwin.
he does.
Well, it
and-
was kind of brilliant to hire circus performers to
Yes.
be in those roles, people who could contort themselves in silly ways. And it just works. I know that it didn't work for people at the time, but maybe that's because it was such a cynical movie and people were expecting something different. But I think that having grown up on this movie and even watching it back now, I can see it for what it is meant to be. And it's kind of amazing that it got made in the way that it did. And of course, with all the odds stacked against it, with all of its production problems.
Yeah. But I think especially, in our world that we live in where, there of all of these adaptations and what should it be? And, we're doing this beloved property and now it's so
Yeah.
commonplace. At the time, I mean, I guess Superman had just been
Yeah.
adapted, but, this wasn't happening all the time.
Uh-huh.
I think they nailed it. I think that Altman, especially like Altman kind of working out of his comfort zone, there's some areas where it definitely comes across, but I would say for the most part, the visual aspect and his flair that he adds to it fits to
Absolutely.
Popeye.
Yeah.
Even more impressed with it watching it now. And it's so easy for me to watch it and see it and overlook those flaws and really focus on like the damn, wow, they got it right.
Yeah. It's hard to get anything done in a way that isn't formulaic, and Robert Altman did it. And I mean, that's what he does. He does things in his own style, and whether you like it or not, that's how he's going to do it.
Yeah.
You have no choice.
I feel like you're quoting the documentary there.
Geez. Yeah, the documentary, it's so just like...
Didn't Sally
kissing
Kellerman
his
say
ass.
that?
Oh, geez. Probably.
Another
But no,
Altman-
but that
yeah.
is it is true. I mean, he wasn't going to do something just for the sake of appeasing somebody. I mean,
No.
it's why, I mean, before this, I think maybe his most notable movie before this, I'm sorry, the last movie that he did before this that I think was notable was Nashville, which was 75. And then I think it was still like almost a decade later that people really started caring about his work with like Tanner 88. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that kind of like put him back in a position where people were just like, what's Robert Altman doing?
But The Player was what really put him back on.
Well, yeah, 92.
Yeah.
Well, Vincent and Theo, that was a TV series, but
No, that was Vincent and Theo. That was with Tim Roth and is it Paul Reese?
Yeah, why did I think that was a series?
No, Tanner 88 was a series.
No, Vincent and Theo, it's a TV miniseries. Anyway.
I mean, I remember, I'm fairly sure I remember it having a theatrical release.
Oh. Well, but yeah,
I mean,
the Player and then Shortcuts. I mean, then he was just like, he's back.
I mean, I think The Player was really his return to form.
Well, what's also kind of amazing is that, The Player, that is a large undertaking, at least in terms of scheduling. Thinking about all of the gigantic mega celebrities that were in that. But it is a dense movie that is very ambitious, and it's Robert Altman doing something very ambitious at a time when, maybe for most other people, they would be trying to play it more safe. And he was just like, no, I'm going to do this thing where the first shot is 8 minutes long. It doesn't stop and it doesn't use any camera trickery. It's all just completely mapped out and carefully planned. Yeah. It's amazing. And he's still able to get all of these like the biggest stars of the time to like do his bidding.
Yeah, absolutely. And did it till like right through his last film, Prairie Home Companion.
That's right.
Meryl Streep, Lily Tomlin, Kevin Kline, Lindsay Lohan, in 2006.
Virginia Madsen
is in there. Well, I mean, geez, is Lyle Lovett in it?
It feels like Lyle Lovett should be in it, right?
Probably.
He's one of the Robert Altman players.
Yeah, one of the new generation, the new Robert Altman
Yeah,
players.
the new Robert Altman
Yes.
players. Is that the new Main Street Singers?
Yes, that's exactly. Yes. All right.
And isn't Paul Dooley in the Main Street Singers?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow, the connection is made.
Yes.
Linking Altman to Christopher Guest.
Oh, brilliant.
So Dan, clearly there are always things going on with Popeye, including chicken restaurants and Wimpy's and all that kind of stuff. What do you think should happen next? I mean, there was this 2010 animated version, which the test footage reminded me of the Peanuts movie that came out.
Yeah.
Not too long after, maybe it was 2015, 2016. And the animation style felt very similar.
Yeah, which is why I'm kind of like reluctant. I've had a couple of ideas, and the one that I feel like I'm settling on as like I'd be interested in this. I don't know that it could be made the way that I want to see it made, which would be an animated, hand-drawn, shot-for-shot remake.
Oh, okay.
Like,
so Robert Altman's Popeye, but done animated in a style indicative of the 80s or late 70s.
I'm like, you know what? Because that would show how good the live action version. Because why is it? That's the direction we're going these days.
Would it be a musical? I guess it would have to be if it's shot for shot.
I would say so. Shot for shot, maybe cutting out the song that Pappy sings in the middle of the chase scene.
Yeah, nobody asked for that.
No.
Nobody asked for that, Mr. Hand.
It just it stops the momentum.
And there's not much momentum there to begin with. That's a pretty slow.
It only now just
scene.
occurred to me that Ray Walston in 1982 plays a character named Mr. Hand. Then in 1992 plays a character in Of Mice and Men, Candy, who has only one hand. All right,
interesting.
There's really
that's a thing.
It's a coincidence. So I was like, do I want to see this on stage? And so here's the yes, only if you could do it with circus performers and do the I'm like, a stage production would be really good, except you would need to get the circus performers. And honestly, I would want the stage production to use the Nilsson songs.
Yeah.
Why not? But when I was thinking about like, all right, do I want stage production? Do I want an actual like live action remake? And who could do that? And I was like, maybe Spike Jonze. I'm like, would that be fun?
Yeah. Michel Gondry.
Yeah.
Could do a fun one.
Yeah. So I like, that's kind of where I was thinking. I'm like, I don't know. But ultimately, we're seeing live action remakes of animated films. Well, yeah, I want to see an animated remake of a live action film.
That's cool. I like that.
And I think, yes, I'm going to go with the rare shot for shot remake.
I have no arguments.
Fabulous. What are your thoughts?
Well, I wouldn't mind seeing not a remake, but another live action attempt at Popeye. I feel like this isn't not to say that animation is only for kids, but Popeye is not a character that kids are asking for, right? You and I both have kids. They're not like, gotta see the new Popeye show.
Well, that's part of the problem is Popeye really, there's no relevance. I don't know.
Well, but I think that if there was a fun live action movie for Popeye, then it could get some interest from all audiences.
Kind of like the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I didn't see either of those, but
I saw the first one. It's fine. It's good. But I don't know if I would have any animated elements.
I guess you wouldn't need anything animated.
No. He does have a dog in the comics named Jeep. That could be anime. I don't know. I don't think that everybody's really asking for that.
I don't think we need a dog.
But so what I did is I just assembled some names for people who I'd like to see in the characters.
Oh yeah.
Here's my
Interesting. Okay.
list for actors who I'd want to see as Popeye. And we can, after I go through this list, talk about it if you'd like. So I had a bunch for this one, and a lot of them for different reasons. I think that Jeremy Allen White would make a fun Popeye. From Shameless, The Bear, which I've been watching the second season. It just came out. It's so good.
Excited to see him play Kerry Von Erich in the upcoming The Iron Claw.
Yeah, he's doing the wrestling film, but I know that he is somebody who can move on his feet. I think that he has a dancing background. Like, he also is very physically fit. And I don't know, he's kind of got like a really interesting face. I feel like he could do a Popeye kind of a thing. I also think that Ryan Gosling would be a fun Popeye. We know that he's good on his feet. He's funny. He can do whatever you need him to do. This one is really a jaw casting decision, but Kieran Culkin. He's got a great jaw. He is a Popeye character. We mentioned this one on our last episode, but Channing Tatum would be a fun Popeye. I'm thinking mostly of his work in Hail Caesar, where he's got the sailor thing going on. He's a great dancer, so we know that he can move. I think that Bradley Cooper would be fun. If we're gonna skew older, one tier would be Steve Zahn. The next tier would be William H. Macy.
Oh wow. Okay.
So yeah, if we're doing an older Popeye, I'd say William H. Macy. Maybe a little younger than that would be Steve Zahn.
I would add in there Sam Rockwell.
Well, Sam Rockwell can do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. But I'm not. But then again, so can Gary Oldman. I'm not throwing Gary Oldman into the mix there. I think of those of your contenders. I think Jeremy Allen White is interesting to me as the younger Popeye. I feel like it just kind of going along because you're talking about it. I'm thinking about it. I feel like anyone involved with the Barbie movie, it's kind of like
That's fair.
You have to sit Popeye out.
Yeah.
I'm very interested.
I am so interested in this Barbie movie.
So intrigued.
That comes out soon, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Summer movie.
Soon. Yeah. All right. So who else?
So for my olive oils,
yeah,
I have one who I think has maybe, I don't know. Okay. Kristen Wiig, I think could pull off an olive oil. I think just all around. I mean, maybe she's, I don't know. I guess it depends on what age you're doing Popeye, but she'd be a great olive oil. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is another person that I thought of. You don't typically see her doing Goofy, but I don't think that she's incapable of it.
Okay.
Olive oil, I'd say olive oil is a hard one to cast.
Chloe Fineman.
See, I don't care for her. Sorry if you're listening.
You don't think you don't think she could do a good olive oil?
I don't buy into her shtick.
I'm like, I didn't care for Shelley Duvall in much other than
right, but it's a matter of, can you do a good olive oil? I don't think that she can. I don't know. I think that she could convince people that she was good, but would she be actually good? I don't know. For Bluto, which is the only other character that I really considered first, because I have to throw him in. He's our guy, past guest Gabrus. How fun would that be?
I think Gabrus would definitely make that work.
I feel like these three people that I have, if you combine them all together, they'd make the perfect Bluto. So that's Gabrus, Jason Momoa, and Nick Offerman.
Okay.
Those are my three. If you could just mush them together.
Oh man, Nick Offerman.
Nick Offerman would be the best.
Nick Offerman would be fantastic as Bluto. In fact, that makes me think, because of course I'm like, I'm thinking of some pro wrestlers who would make a good. I'm thinking of a guy named who goes by the name Braun Strowman.
Okay.
For the look, but I'm like, no, I'd rather see Nick Offerman.
Well, you know that Nick Offerman would do something really fun with it, and I think that this would be an opportunity to maybe get people to like Bluto a little bit. Because Bluto is just like inherently unlikable.
You know, speaking of, so I just kind of like was watching one of the cartoons. Oh,
No, go on. We'll come back to what I was thinking.
no, and this cartoon, this whole short was basically like Olive Oyl goes out on a picnic date with both Bluto and Popeye, and Bluto spends the
First
whole...
of all, the kings and queen of the poly world.
Oh, well, it was not working out for them this day because, well, Bluto kept fucking with Popeye and kept playing all these pranks on him. And Popeye was getting pissed off, and Olive Oyl kept being like, "Oh, Popeye, can't you take a joke?" And, "Oh, that's so funny. It's so funny." And then, like, Popeye does, like, one thing, and they were, like, giving him shit for it. And I was like, man, not only is Bluto just being a dick, but Olive Oyl's, like, egging him on and, like, encouraging him. And I'm like, this is not the Olive Oyl
in the
I know
cartoons
and love.
and in the comic strip. Olive Oyl is not very cool. She is constantly being all wishy-washy with our heroes' feelings.
Yeah. So definitely feel like Shelley Duvall Olive Oyl was an improvement here. And
Yeah, where it's like, okay, well, she's gonna be with Bluto because, well, he's large,
it's what's expected.
It's fine. But then, once she gets to know Popeye, she gets it. But
who's your... back to your casting.
Just one real quick thing. You were asking before about what moments stick out to me. Those
yes.
when Bluto is going around at the party and he's got the flower and he's like, "She'll marry me. She won't marry me," and then like he beats the shit out of somebody.
Yeah,
that scene is so good.
He like stuffs Bill Irwin into something?
Oh yeah, I mean he stuffs Bill Irwin into everything.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
You can
casting.
fit Bill Irwin. Yeah, no.
Yeah. So those are my
about
casting
Wimpy?
calls. I don't know. You could.
I don't know.
Wimpy.
You mentioned Kieran Culkin before, and I'm like, I would love to see a Kieran Culkin Wimpy.
You want to see a skinny Wimpy?
Well, no. I mean, I could like see him Polk up or something. I don't know.
You know, Brendan Fraser, the whale Wimpy.
Yeah, maybe.
Get you real depressed.
You could have Gabrus, another.
Gabrus would be a fun Wimpy.
Gabrus could be a fun Wimpy. I could definitely see him. I could see him leaning into whatever.
You know who I would really like to be Wimpy? And this one is for podcast fans out there who listen to the Doughboys podcast. Nick Weiger. Dan, do you listen to the Doughboys podcast?
I do not.
Okay. It is delightful. It is hosted by Nick Weiger, aka the Burger Boy, and and Mike Mitchell, aka Spoon Man. Mike Mitchell has more of a Bluto-y look, but Weiger, he's the Burger Boy, and Mike Mitchell, who's done podcasts with me before. He was in the movie The Tomorrow War. He's in the new Twisted Metal series with Anthony Mackie. So he shows up and stuff.
Okay, and I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, big bearded guy.
Yeah.
So funny. He's in
I watched the Tomorrow War.
Netflix show Love. He's on that. He's Randy.
Okay.
Nick Weiger, who is not an actor, is the Burger Boy, and this would please a lot of podcast fans out there.
I mean, yeah. Why not? That's great. So that's your Wimpy. Oh, who I don't think we mentioned earlier was Richard Libertini, who's in the cast.
Richard Libertini.
Popeye. Richard Libertini, who was in whatchamacallit, Fletch. He's the editor in Fletch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we did another movie that he was in.
God, who does he look like? I was thinking like
kind of Vincent Schiavelli-esque.
He has a very Vincent Schiavelli look. Vincent Schiavelli on a good day.
I wanted to point him out in this movie because he's just one of those. He's like Donald Moffat, where he's one of those people who's like, yeah, it's that guy.
Also, for notable people in the 1980 Popeye cast, Wesley Ivan Hurt, who plays Sweet Pea.
Oh,
he's Robert Altman's grandson. he was put into the role because he had like a weird little crooked smile. Cutest kid.
Adorable.
Amazingly cute kid. Shines in this movie.
Yes.
I looked him up. He's I think a math teacher in Kentucky or something. Hope he's doing well. I tried to
good for him.
I tried to, get in contact with him, but perhaps he does not want to be contacted. But he was a great baby actor.
I mean, he's really, featured in this. So, and considering he's not like a twin.
Right. And I will say this, it's a Nepo baby casting situation done right. I mean, find me a better baby to be Sweepy. You can't.
That's Sweepy.
Yeah.
No substitutions.
Delightful.
Yeah. So Popeye, it was so much fun. I was so excited to come in and talk about Popeye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Another thing I was thinking of would be fun. Would be like, I was thinking of a podcast kind of like the Turner, I think, is it TCM, The Plot Thickens, just like a season about like just a tumultuous making. I feel like a podcast season about the making of Popeye.
I was thinking like not necessarily the disaster artist style, but you know what I mean? Like a movie that goes into the making of Popeye, because think about the cast of characters you got. You have Robin Williams, Robert Evans, Harry Nilsson, Robert Altman, Shelley Duvall. Like that'd be really fun to emulate.
Yeah, it really would, but it almost would be like an SNL sketch of one of those, just because it'd be so bonkers, and except how many people would get all the Harry Nilsson jokes? All the people who've seen that documentary.
It would be for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
One for us. So speaking of, shall I share what our next cinematic voyage, where our next cinematic...
Please.
So yes, we will be going from water to ice as we hit the ice with Paul Newman in 1977, Slapshot, directed by George Roy Hill, our third George Roy Hill, Paul Newman collaboration.
I love it.
And the Hanson brothers and everything else, just legendary about Slapshot. Great cult flick. Our first hockey movie, right?
Well, we haven't done the Mighty Ducks.
What
other hockey movies are there? Strange Brew. Could that be considered a hockey movie?
That's the closest thing, because they play that weird hockey thing in it. But oh man, I can't wait to talk about Strange Brew, but that's another movie for another time. No, we're talking about Slapshot on the next episode.
Psyched.
Me too. Can't wait to watch it.
Well, Dan, as you are off to save olive oil on, I think it's called Scab Island, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey. Watch out for that octopusy.